My name is Reverend Kate Wilkinson, and I'm so glad that you are here with us this morning. I'd especially like to welcome my mother, Lynn Wilkinson, who is directing the choir this morning. Thank you, Mom. On this 4th of July week, we give thanks for our liberties and freedoms, our families and friends, a chance to celebrate with cookouts and bonfires, fireworks and parades. We also acknowledge all those ways in which our country is not living up to its mandates on freedom and liberty. We pray for those waiting at the border in overcrowded camps, being treated as less than human simply because they are not American yet. Surely our morals and ethics do not stop at the border, do not fit in cages, do not see children and think criminal. Our hearts soar for this honorable and generous nation, and our hearts break for this cruel and selfish nation. We live in both countries. May our faith encourage us to be citizens and patriots of the first, and dissidents against the second. Amen. Our reading this morning is by Lisa Doge. I remove my shoes because this is hallowed ground, the guide says. A holy place, not an everyday life place. The guide tells us how we know or think we know it was the one and not the other for those people millennia ago. But aren't the places where we live holy ground? Don't our very acts of feeding one another, healing one another, singing to one another, teaching one another, dancing together and weeping together, hallow the places where we live? This is an early morning image, the guide says, spritzing it with water so we can see it on a cloudy afternoon. Shifting light through the hours and the seasons reveals different images. Isn't that the way it is with the images of our lives? That the signs and symbols, events and turning points and decisions telling the stories of our days and years come into clarity and fade again through cycles of light and dark, seasons of birth and growth, hibernation and death. This stone is hard, the guide says, harder even than granite. So hard that the snows and rains and winds of thousands of years have not erased marks left by the glaciers of the last ice age. Yet, the buffalo wore one tall rock smooth, rubbing away their irritations against it till it shone like glass. Isn't even this the way of our lives, that flesh and blood can find relief in rough places, that irritants can polish us, that hard will sometimes yield to soft after countless repeated encounters? The other day, my mother was looking online for a song she knew of by vocal activist Melanie DeMore. She found it and watched a video of it on YouTube, but as she was getting ready to go on to something else, another Melanie DeMore song started playing. It was the song that the choir just sang. I will be your standing stone. My mother was mesmerized by it. She listened to it again and again. I will be your standing stone. I will stand by you. She found another video where Melanie DeMore was teaching the song to a choir. That too was mesmerizing. I'm not sure if you know Melanie DeMore, but a critic once wrote, Melanie DeMore's singing is thrilling. This is not a voice that comes along every day. This is woman power wrapped in velvet. So this woman power wrapped in velvet was teaching this song, and she told the choir, I wrote this song for my friend who had stage 4 ovarian cancer. I wrote this song for her because sometimes all we can do is stand by each other. Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. I will be your standing stone. I will stand by you. So powerful. And it was kind of kismet or serendipity or something that brought this song to my mother's attention, but I tell you what, the magic with this song doesn't stop there. As it turns out, the friend that Melanie wrote this song for was Erica Luckett, who some of you knew through Reverend Christy Hardwick's Inspiration Weekend. Erica was a dear friend of Christy's and a really talented musician and dear soul. And before she died, she often sang for Inspiration Weekend, and she sang right here in this sanctuary as part of that weekend. And many of us heard her. So it is even more special that this song was written for her. But the magic with this song doesn't stop there. After listening to it several times, my mom thought to herself, this song would be perfect for the hospice choir. My mother leads a choir that sings to people while they are dying. They go out in groups of 2 or 3, and they go to someone's bedside, and they sing healing songs to help with their transition. Sometimes they sing just once, and sometimes they'll go every week until the person passes away. So my mom wrote down the different parts to the song and memorized them. And the next day, she was driving with another singer to the home of a man with Alzheimer's. This is a man who they had sung to before, many times. And during his active life, he was a musician. But now he is quite ill and not verbal at all. But he's living at home with his wife, who is his primary caregiver. And they have a private caregiver who comes in the mornings. So they were driving to his house, and on the way there, my mother said to this other singer, I want to teach you this song, and I want to sing it for this man's wife. To my mother, this man's wife is truly a standing stone. She is there for her husband 24/7. She cares for him tirelessly and is filled with love. So she taught the song, and it's a simple song, so it wasn't too hard to learn on a car ride. But when they got there, the wife wasn't there. She was at the gym, which is good. She needed a break. Caregivers need breaks. And they decided to sing the song anyway. Now, another thing to know about this man is that though he is quite diminished in most capacities, he still loves music and is visibly moved by it. And And like I said, he was an accomplished musician in his life, and so while he isn't verbal, he does listen intently, and he does grimace whenever they hit a wrong note. And when he likes something, he smiles. And it's like the sun has come out all over his face. And even though he can't speak, sometimes he will hum. Often there are 2 hospice choir singers at a time, and they sing in 2 parts. And when there are 3 parts, they take turns, changing parts throughout the song. And sometimes this man will add a harmony with his humming. And he's always right on. It's amazing. Usually his wife and the caregiver cry when they sing. They love us, my mom said, and we love them. So they decided to sing the song to this man and his private caregiver, even without his wife. And they sang it, and the man smiled, and the caregiver cried. And then when she had dried her eyes, she said, "You know, there are many references to standing stones in the Old Testament." "There are?" my mother asked. She said, "Yes. God places standing stones in places where he's done great things as a reminder that miracles can happen." My mom said, "Thank you for telling us that, because it adds a whole new dimension to the song." And the caregiver said, "Well, there's more to the story. Do you want to hear it?" And my mother said, "Yes." And then this woman told an amazing story. You see, her husband worked for the state, mowing lawns along the highway. And a few years ago, he had a terrible accident at work. While he was on the highway mowing, he was hit. His injuries were so terrible that he should have died. But she feels that God intervened and performed a miracle because he lived. He lived because someone stopped to help. They got him to a hospital, and he was operated on, and he was there for a long time. And then he was in rehab for a long time. And this caregiver was now caregiver for her own husband. And she stood by him. When her husband was finally finished with rehab, this woman took a standing stone and placed it beside the highway in the place where he had had the accident. And it is still there, a reminder of God's miracle. My mom asked this woman if it would be okay to share the story, and she said yes. And she asked if it would be okay to share her story with me so that I might use it in a sermon, and she said yes. She would be honored. And that if this story would touch even one person, it would make her happy. When my mother got home, she looked up standing stones in the Bible and found that this woman was right. There are 16 references to standing stones in the Hebrew Bible. Jacob set up stone pillars at Bethel in order to remember his powerful dream in which God reaffirmed his covenant with him. Moses built 12 standing stones at the foot of Mount Sinai after receiving the 10 Commandments and other laws. The Israelites erected standing stones to remember their miraculous crossing of the Jordan River. Joshua built a standing stone when the covenant was renewed at Shechem. Of course, long before the Israelites entered Canaan, pagans in the Middle East erected standing stones to honor their gods, to declare covenants and treaties between cities, and to honor important events that could only be explained by the supernatural. Standing stones can be found across Europe, Africa, and Asia, but they are most numerous in Western Europe, particularly in Ireland and Great Britain. There are about 50,000 standing stones there. Some standing stones date from 4000 BC, weigh more than 25 tons each, stand 20 feet tall, and sink into the ground another 20 feet into the earth. Some of them are miles away from the nearest quarry site. Sometimes they appear in groups, often in a circular henge formation, and are thought to be sites of ancient religious ceremonies, sometimes containing burial chambers. When I think of standing stones, I think of those ancient mystical sites like Stonehenge. I also think of the small towers of stones that mark my way when I go hiking. At a rocky peak, it can be hard to know which way the trail runs, and sometimes someone who has been through it before you will leave a guide, build a cairn, and that helps you find your way. In her book, Kitchen Table Wisdom, Dr. Rachel Naomi Remen tells a story of rocks that help people to find their way. But it isn't on a hiking trail. It's in the hospital. One of the most common things people with cancer tell me, she says, is that experiences of hospitalization and treatment are profoundly isolating. I suspect that this sense of aloneness may even undermine the will to live, she says. When we feel the support of others, many of us can face the unknown with greater strength. I often use ritual to help people at times like this, she says. So for more than 20 years, Dr. Remen has offered a very simple yet powerful ritual to people before their radiation, chemotherapy, or surgery. She tells them to meet together with some of their closest friends and family the day before their procedure. It doesn't matter how large or small the group is, but it is important that it be made up of those who are connected to them through a bond of the heart. Before the meeting, she asks them to find an ordinary stone, a piece of the earth, big enough to fit in the palm of their hand, and bring it to the meeting with them. The ritual begins by having everyone sit in a circle. In any order they wish to speak, each person tells the story of a time when they too faced a crisis. People may talk about the death of important people in their lives, the loss of jobs or relationships, or even about their own illnesses. The person who is speaking holds the stone. When they finish telling their story of survival, they take a moment to reflect on the personal quality that they feel helped them come through that difficult time. People say things like, "What brought me through was determination. What brought me through was faith. What brought me through was humor." When they have named the quality of their strength, they speak directly to the person preparing for surgery or treatment, saying, "I put determination into this stone for you," or "I put faith into this stone for you." Often what people say is surprising. Sometimes they tell of crises that occurred when they were young or in wartime, that others, even family members, may not have known before. or they attribute their survival to qualities that are not ordinarily seen as strengths. It's usually a moving and intimate meeting, and often all the people who participate say that they feel strengthened and inspired by it. After everyone has spoken, the stone is given back to the patient, who takes it with them to the hospital to keep nearby and hold in their hand when things get hard. Dr. Remen says, "I have had several patients go to their chemotherapy, radiation, or even their surgery with their stones strapped with adhesive tape to the palm of one of their hands or the bottom of their foot." Over the years, many of the oncologists and surgeons in her community have learned about these stones from their patients and are very careful about them. One surgeon even had the staff go through the hospital laundry in search of a stone that was accidentally thrown away with the sheets in the recovery room. Dr. Remen asked him why he had done this, and he said, "Listen, I have seen people do badly after surgery when there was no reason for it, other than the fact that they believed they wouldn't make it. I need all the help I can get." No one has chemotherapy or radiation or goes into an operating room without the thoughts, hopes, and prayers of many people going with them, Dr. Remen says. The stones seem to make all that a little more plain to the people and reminds them of the strength and beauty of what is natural. In an environment which is highly technical and sterile, it connects them to the earth. Ritual is one of the oldest ways to mobilize the power of community for healing, she says. I think the people in the Bible knew that. And the caregiver who placed a standing stone at the site of her husband's accident, and definitely Melanie DeMore knew that when she was writing her song for Erica. Maybe God places standing stones as a reminder that miracles can happen. Or maybe the effort of an ancient people moving a boulder that weighs 25 tons because they are in awe is the miracle. Maybe the steadfast love of friends is the miracle. Maybe the Good Samaritan stopping on the highway, or the wife sitting her steadfast vigil, is the miracle. And aren't the places where we live holy ground? Don't our very acts of feeding one another, healing one another, singing to one another, teaching one another, dancing together and weeping together, hallow the places where we live? Sometimes all we can do is stand by each other. Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. I will be your standing stone. I will stand by you. Amen, and blessed be.